Hi guys, back to the last part of chapter 18, growth and development. So we ended on this slide and we were talking about the fact that birds have hollow bones, which is an adaptation to flight. So let's go on to another body system, fascinating one, the muscular system. So in your body you have, and mammals have, three different types of muscle tissue. You have skeletal muscles, those attach to bones and allow movement and motion. Skeletal muscles are the primary muscles that we consume as food. So when you eat a T-bone steak, you are consuming a skeletal muscle. So it attaches to the backbone and basically the ribs where the loin is. So smooth muscles make up much of the digestive system, the reproductive system, and the urinary system. So smooth muscles look different than skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are striated, they're fibrous, they look different. Smooth muscles, you might not think they're a muscle, but they are. Skeletal muscles are activated by direct thought and the brain. Smooth muscles operate through the base of the brain, and you don't have to think about smooth muscles function. You don't have to tell your body or think about digesting food because it functions automatically. And then the most important muscle in the body, of course, is the cardiac muscle, the heart muscle, and it is its own tissue. And just to give it a little bit of thought, think about your heart. Your heart beats from the time you're conceived until the time you die. And you know, the human lifespan is approaching 80 years. So think of something that you can think of in your life that runs continuously for 80 years. It's hard to think of something that would last that long and doesn't wear out. Unfortunately, when it does wear out, that's kind of the end of the road for most people. But the cardiac muscle is certainly amazing. And the same for mammals. So here is the primary muscles of a beef steer. So if you are going to study animal science and maybe you are thinking about a career in meat science, that is part of the study. You have to understand all the muscles of the animal's body. And remember, all of these muscles are what we eat in terms of, muscle tissue for food. And each muscle has its own characteristics and cooking qualities. We talked about that in an earlier lecture. Here's the muscles of a chicken. Chickens have been so extremely selected for heavy breast meat yield that, really their little arms in the form of their wings are very tiny and not very well adapted for flight at all. In a meat bird like this, they can't fly. They have too much muscle here. And sometimes they even have trouble walking because their little legs haven't been selected to be, contain as much muscle. The primary muscle in a bird that producers want is the breast meat, and that has been enhanced through years and years of genetic selection. Remember, there's no hormones used in poultry. So you're about to have Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving, when you look at a turkey, the white meat is the breast meat, of course, the breast and the wings, and that is drier meat. It has less myoglobin. Myoglobin gives meat its pigment, its color, and it also contains it's the molecule that helps transport oxygen to the muscles. And so those muscles of the thigh and the legs are more blood enriched, and they contain more myoglobin pigment, which helps transport oxygen to these muscles that get used a lot. In a bird like a turkey with its tiny little wings and a meat bird, they don't have much use for the breast meat in terms of flying, so that's why it's the paler color. In birds like ducks and geese, their whole body is all dark meat. They don't have any white breast meat. And humans, we like the breast meat because it's low in fat and calories, and it tastes good and can be used in a lot of different ways. So the next body system is a circulatory system. We have two big categories, the arteries and the veins, and I'm sure you know this already. The arteries carry oxygenated blood, and they are the large blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart to provide oxygen to all the body's systems and all the organs and tissues. And the two major arteries in the body are the aorta, which takes oxygenated blood to the body, and the carotid arteries, which takes oxygenated blood to your brain. The veins are the bluish, the blood inside is bluish in color because it lacks oxygen. And these are large blood vessels that carry blood back to the heart. These are low pressure, arteries are high pressure. So the jugular is basically the vein that brings the blood back from the brain. And the vena cava is the vein that returns blood to be recirculated, so low oxygen or unoxygenated blood. So here's a picture of a cow, and you can see the arteries and veins we just got done talking about, as well as the heart. And you have to remember that cows have a lot of blood. Cows and horses have about 8 gallons of blood in their body. So, sometimes you see them giving birth or something. Oh my gosh, look at all that blood. Remember, they have 8 gallons. They have a lot of blood. But you can see the aorta, the vena cava, the carotid, and the jugular. So another body system we'll talk about a little bit, it's very important, is the endocrine system. The endocrine system is kind of like your glandular system. And the purpose of the endocrine system is vital because they secrete and produce and secrete hormones into the circulatory system. Your body naturally produces lots of different hormones, and hormones control so many of your body functions. You think you control your body functions. You really don't. It's all a chemical reaction. So, for example, the endocrine system consists of the thyroid, the pituitary, the adrenal glands, the ovary, and the testes. The thyroid gland regulates your metabolic rate, so it has an effect on your appetite, and it also has an effect on growth. The pituitary gland is located at the base of your brain, and it's what we call the master gland. It controls so many functions in your body, and it has a huge impact on growth, production of hormones that affect your reproductive system, all different kinds of indirect functions. The adrenal gland produces epinephrine. The adrenal glands are located right on top of your kidneys. And epinephrine, of course, is your fight or flight hormone. And then your ovaries and testes also produce the sex hormones of estrogen and testosterone. So, if you look at this sheep, it shows the endocrine system. The interesting thing about the endocrine system is it's not really linked by blood vessels or anything like that. Hormones are secreted into the blood, but the endocrine system is kind of independent of all the other body systems. It functions to control that, but the organs are located throughout the body. So here's the thyroid gland in the neck, and that is the organ that regulates the metabolic rate. Here's your brain. At the base of your brain, sheep's brain kind of small, is the pituitary gland, which is the master gland, controls, like I said, reproduction. In birds, the pituitary gland is light sensitive, so that's what triggers, that has to do with the cycle of laying hens influenced by day length. The pancreas is the organ that produces insulin, and that's produced in the aisles of Langerhans. So that is part of your adrenal system, your endocrine system. Your adrenal gland is located kind of on top of your kidney. Said that produces epinephrine. And this is the ovary, part of the reproductive system. And when an animal is pregnant, you have this yellow body called the corpus luteum, and that produces progesterone. And in the beginning stages of pregnancy, if this corpus luteum gets ruptured or damaged, then the pregnancy will not continue. The baby will die because the hormone progesterone is the pregnancy hormone, and that allows the uterine wall to have a good blood supply and all kinds of things you need to make that a comfortable environment for that little fetus in there. The placenta itself, as time goes on, will begin producing progesterone also. So that's interesting. Here's a chart that shows a lot of different hormones, the part of the endocrine system where they're produced, and the effect on the body. So you might want to look at that a little bit later. Coming up on the last slides, a kind of random slide, talks about age and teeth relationship. So we talk about growth and development. In animals, one of the ways that we determine the age of an animal is to look at their teeth. And really, it's really relevant only in a few kinds of animals. For example, we don't look at the teeth in pigs to age them because a pig's lifespan is very short. Probably a sow may live for 3 years because they have so many litters of babies. Their lifespan just isn't very long. But a cow lives for, a dairy cow can live for 5 years and a beef cow could live for 10 years. So we can look at the animal's teeth. In sheep, it's very important because we can tell the age of the sheep. These terms are related to sheep. So as a yearling, when the animal reaches 12 months to 24 months, that has its first set of permanent incisors. So incisors are the biting teeth, these ones right here. Your biting teeth, and those are the first set. Remember, they only have bottom teeth. The first set comes through when they are a year old, theoretically. Sometimes they're 14 months or something like that, but that's when they get their yearling teeth. Meanwhile, they have all their baby teeth, but they just get the yearling teeth. And horses are the same way. Horses the same way. 2-year-old, they get their second set of permanent incisors, and so on until they have what's called a full mouth with all of their permanent incisors. And then as they get older, they may lose teeth, or with really old sheep, usually they're really skinny, they have no teeth, or a broken mouth is missing teeth, or a gummer has no teeth at all. So teeth can be used to tell the age of an animal, and generally we're going to use that in horses. That's probably the single most important, and sheep, goats, and cattle, although no one I know ever ages cattle by looking at their teeth. There's probably somebody out there that does it. So basically here is, this is cattle, teeth of cattle, but I would say this is like what a sheep's yearling teeth look like. All the milk teeth or baby teeth are kind of white in color, and then the incisors, you can't miss them. They're really big compared to the baby teeth or the milk teeth. So in sheep, this would be a yearling, and this would be a 2-year-old. They have their second set of incisors. This one would be a 3-year-old. And then this is a full mouth, which is about 4. And then as the animal gets older, the teeth actually change shape. They become more triangular just from the constant grinding and grazing on, hard grass, or, if it's sandy, it grinds down their teeth. So anyway, so that's how we age animals, by looking at their teeth. Okay, that's about all for chapter 18. Take it easy. Good luck with the questions.